Hello Pokemon fans, I'm Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and welcome back to yet another Deck Tech Thursday, where we go over competitive deck profiles that you might see in different matchups at different tournaments. Now today we're going to be focusing more on Standard because once again the current regionals that's coming up soon is in the Standard format. Eventually we will get to the expanded stuff, but it just seems like everything is Standard ever since we started the series, so eventually we get to it. But for now, we are going to focus on a very powerful deck and a force to be reckoned with in the current Standard format, and that is going to be Volcanion right here. So we're going to focus on this guy right here. Very powerful card in association with its EX form, and definitely something to be afraid of in different events. So we're going to take a look at this deck profile here and get started. I want to give credit, of course, to Safraz from the meta deck. This is actually a very close list based off of his, so I want you guys to definitely go and check out his channel. There'll be a link in the description down below to the meta deck, and of course, as you longtime fans know, the meta deck and Safraz, of course, are huge friends of ours. So definitely go over there and support him in the competitive TCG content that he does over there. So definitely go and give him a look. All right, we're gonna get started here. And we're going to start off first and foremost with 4 copies of Volcanion. Now, Volcanion is actually a really powerful card. It's got really good attacks. Now, the first attack is going to be very much reminiscent of Xerneas because Power Heater does 20 damage, which is something that Geomancy lacks, and it attaches 2 fire energy, two fire energy, 1 to each of 2 different two fire Pokemon on your bench. Now, that 20 damage doesn't seem like much, but we definitely have a way to increase that damage output. Its second attack is also very powerful, and that is Steam Artillery. 3 fire energy does 100 damage. Now, on the cover of the card alone, it's decent, but it doesn't seem fantastic. But when you guys see what the rest of the deck can do, it becomes super powerful really quickly, and it's very scary, especially with that 130 HP, which makes it a little bit difficult to knock out in one shot. So we're gonna take these 4 copies of Volcanion EX, the main attacker of the deck, and we're gonna set him right over there. Now, what's really going to make the difference in this deck is going to be this card right here, Volcanion EX. Now, Volcanion EX has an ability that just overpowers everything, and that ability is Steam Up. Now, Steam Up, it allows you, once during your turn before you attack, to discard a fire energy from your hand and do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon before applying weakness and resistance. And it does have 1 attack of its own that's pretty decent, and that's Volcanic Heat. It does 130 damage for 2 fire and a colorless, and this Pokemon cannot attack during your next turn. So it can be used as an attacker, but it's not the best attacker to use on a consistent basis because you can't attack with it on the next turn. But it does help power up these attacks right here, being Power Heater and Steam Artillery. So a single Volcanion EX with a discarded fire energy turns that 20 into 50, turns that 100 into 130. Now, that's not just 1, but there's 3 of these in this deck. Now, I'll talk about a card here when we get up a little bit further onto the deck profile that you guys could switch out for a 4th one of these, but 3 seems to do the job pretty well. So you can use each of one of these on the turn. So you can go Steam Up, Steam Up, Steam Up if they're all on the bench. And all of a sudden, your Power Heater that was doing 20 is now doing 30, 60, 90, 100, 110 damage, and you're attaching 2 fire energy that you just threw out to a Pokemon, or to 2 different Pokemon on the bench. And then Steam Artillery, now instead of 100, you're doing 190 damage for 3 fire energy. It's really, really powerful, and it can get very overwhelming very quickly. So we're gonna put that here on the bench. And we've also, onto the side here. Now, here's another card that can take advantage of an attack that has to do with fire energy, and that is going to be Flareon EX. Its ability is Flash Fire. Once during your turn before you attack, you may move a fire energy from one of your Pokemon to this Pokemon, and you can use its attack, Blaze Ball, which is a Fire-type Keldeo EX, for those of you who remember the format where Keldeo was very dominant, and it's going to be 3 colorless energy, but it does 50 damage and 20 more for each fire energy attached to this Pokemon. So you're going to help power this up with Power Heater. You can go a fire energy here, a fire energy over here, wherever the case is. Attach for turn, you've got 2. Now you got 50, 60, 70. And then if you get another one on the next turn somehow, 80, 90. Then with Steam Ups, you've got another 30, 60, 90. You're dealing 180 damage for 3 energy. Pretty solid if you ask me. All right, the last card we're going to take a look at here for fire types anyways is going to be 1 single copy of Entei. It has 120 HP, and it has 2 attacks. It's got Burning Roar, which is pretty good in the beginning of the game. Discard the top 4 cards of your deck. If any of those are fire energy, attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. So this is going to help you get out that energy acceleration really early on in the game. Also, we've got Combat Blaze as well, which does 20 damage and does 20 more damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So that's pretty powerful. Let's see here. Yeah, 20 plus 20 for each of the opponent's bench Pokemon. And that is also a really good card to have in the deck as well, especially early on, because you're going to take advantage of Burning Roar. All right, now the next card that I was talking about that you can switch out at any given time for maybe necessarily a fourth Volcanion EX is going to be Mr. Mime. Now, Mr. Mime is actually really, really good because it's going to block any bench damage that's done to you by different Pokemon, such as maybe Fright Knight Evoltol, which does 60 damage to a Pokemon bench, Pokemon EX that's on the bench. That's the only thing it's going to be used for is bench barrier, because it's going to prevent all the damage done to your benched Pokemon by attacks from your opponent. So that's going to save you in those kinds of matchups where Fright Knight Evoltol deals 60 and 60, which is super, super strong. So the last Pokemon we're going to be taking a look at here, of course, who's really surprised by this by any means? 2 copies of Shaman EX, because setup is just too good to ignore. And it does help accelerate this deck because obviously you need fire energy to keep the deck going. Steam ups back and forth constantly, and you got your power heater as well, which helps get that out of the discard pile. It just keeps the deck moving along nice and quickly. So that's going to do it for this Pokemon lineup. Let's look at the supporter lineup. Now, first, of course, with just about any deck out there is going to be 4 copies of Professor Sycamore. Discard your hand and draw 7 cards. Standard, draw supporter for the game. Most decks are not going to run any less than 3 of these, except on very, very, very small exceptional circumstances. We also have 3 copies of N, because it's just too good to not have at least 2 to 3 copies of in a deck. Most decks will not run 4, but 3 is a good number. Each player shuffles his or her hand into his or her deck, and each player draws a card for each of their remaining prize cards. So that is definitely very important to help keep your hand going, and also it hurts your opponent later on in the game as well if they've got less prizes than you. Also, we have 2 copies of Lysander, switching one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with his or her active Pokemon. Of course, when you're dealing as much damage as this deck is, you want to target EX Pokemon because you're going to one-shot a lot of stuff with these in play. Also, we have a single copy of Fisherman, putting 4 basic up to 4 basic if you have it in your discard pile. So you can put up to 4 basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand, but if you have 4, you have to put 4. So if you have less than that, you can use it, but you only are going to put in as many as you can, since your discard pile is public knowledge. We also have a single copy here of Ninja Boy. Choose one of your basic Pokemon in play, search through the deck for a basic Pokemon, and switch it with that Pokemon. Any attached cards, damage counters, special conditions, turns in play, and any other effects remain on the new Pokemon. Shuffle the first Pokemon into your deck. So essentially, it's just a surprise. Here you go, we're going to switch. You can go from a Volcanion that has 3 energy attached to it, and switch it into a Flareon EX, and start dealing even more damage. I mean, it's just really good, especially if you start with something like a Shaman. You can start with a Shaman, and you can use Ninja Boy, get yourself into a Volcanion, and start the game off the way it's supposed to start off, which is your optimal starter. Also, we have one more card here in this deck, and that is going to be Olympia. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. If you do, heal 30 damage from the Pokemon you move to your bench. Now, this isn't a card that you see in a lot of decks, and I'm kind of surprised that we don't, because it actually is a really good card. Obviously, you're using your supporter for the turn, but healing that 30 damage can sometimes mean the difference between a win and a loss. I've seen it before in my Greninja deck where I used Olympia before the rotation occurred, and I just kind of been surprised you don't see it more often, but it works pretty well in this deck too. So that's it for the supporter lineup. Let's move on to the items. Of course, it's pretty standard for the first few cards. We've got 4 copies of VS Seeker. Put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. Very straightforward, very simple. You guys all know what VS Seeker does by now. Minimum of 3, but definitely want to play 4 if you can. Then you're going to have 4 copies of Ultra Ball. Discard 2 cards from your hand and search your deck for a Pokemon. And of course, reveal it to your opponent and put it into your hand. There's that. Of course, get your hand size down too to get an optimal setup as well. 4 copies of Trainer's Mail. Lots of items and supporters and things that we can look for to help our strategy along. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal a trainer card you find there, except for Trainer's Mail. Put it into your hand, shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Very good card at this point. 3 or 4 is pretty much essential in every single deck at this point, in my opinion. Also, to help the energy acceleration move along even faster, we have 3 copies of Max Elixir. Look at the top 6 cards of your deck. Attach a basic energy card you find there to a basic Pokemon on your bench. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Max Elixir is becoming a standard card in just about every single deck. It's just too good. It really helps promote your strategy and sets things up super, super fast. So I think it deserves a space in almost every single deck. Except for decks that maybe need low energy costs, like Greninja, for instance. Greninja would not take advantage of Max Elixir in any way, and it's an evolution deck, so this has to go to basics. But big basic decks that require energy like that, I definitely say 3 to 4 every single time. Our tool of choice here is Fighting Fury Belt. The basic Pokemon this card is attached to gets an extra 40 HP, and the attacks do 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Every single card in this deck is a basic, so everything can take advantage of Fighting Fury Belt. I don't recommend putting it on a Shaman and using Sky Return, but you could if you really wanted to. You could also attach it to Entei for the Combat Blaze, plus 10 damage, and making it 160 HP. This brings Flareon up to 210, adding an extra 10 damage. Volcanion up to 220, and Volcanion EX up to 220, and regular Volcanion up to 170, essentially making it a non-EX Pokemon with EX health. So 3 copies of Fighting Fury Belt. This is where my list differs very slightly from Safraz's. If you watch his deck profile that he did, actually yesterday as a matter of fact, you guys would, no, not yesterday, I'm sorry. I forget when he did it actually. I'm trying to remember. I don't even know if he put it up yet, but I think he said he was going to. His list is slightly different. He doesn't run 3 Fighting Fury Belt like I do. I think it's important though. Also, we have a single copy of Professor's Letter, searching your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards. Reveal them, put them into your hand, shuffle your deck afterwards. It's important when you're searching for energy in a deck that requires a lot of energy to function, such as this one. Also, we have a single copy of Super Rod. Shuffle 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards from your discard pile back into your deck. I think every deck now pretty much requires at least 1 copy of Super Rod. It's just too important now. We can't get back our resources nearly as well as we used to. Single copy of Energy Retrieval as well. Get 2 basic energy cards out of your discard pile. Sometimes you just need those extra 2 for a steam up, and you can't get them unless you have a way to get them out of the discard pile, so Energy Retrieval works for that. Also, a nice little extra card here. If you have a lot of energy in play and you can't necessarily use it, because, I mean, Volcanion forces you to put 2 fire energy on 2 different Pokemon, or 1 fighting energy on 2 different Pokemon. Sometimes you don't necessarily need that energy in play, but you have to do it. So this is where this card comes in handy. Energy Reset. Put as many energy attached to your Pokemon as you'd like into your hand. You can get it right back and put it where you want to put it. Use it for steam up, whatever the case may be. We have also 1 copy of Escape Rope. Everything in this deck pretty much has a heavy retreat cost, minus Mr. Mime and Shaman. Entei takes 2, Flareon takes 2, Volcanion EX takes 3, and Volcanion takes 2. And without a way to retreat, you need at least 1 copy of Escape Rope. You could also get a single copy of Floatstone in here as well, maybe. But Olympia also does the job, because you can always VS Seeker for Olympia if you really get stuck in the active. Also, the stadium choice here is Scorched Earth. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard a fire or fighting energy from his or her hand. If that player does, then he or she draws 2 cards. In the very beginning of the game, this is very good to help power up your Power Heater. That way you can get that energy that you just tossed out onto your board by attaching it after you do the damage of Power Heater. And everything else in the deck is going to be left to basic energy, basic fire energy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 total fire energy. There are no special energy required in this deck. Definitely don't recommend it. There's really no need for it. Blaze Ball, yeah, it's colorless, but you're doing more damage if you have fire energy attached. And since you have such a way to accelerate it, what's really the point at this point? You can attach 1 here and discard it, and get it right back with Power Heater if you really have to retreat a Shaman or a Mr. Mime. Everything else takes advantage of fire energy, so there's no point in running special energy of any kind, really. Even burning energy really doesn't matter at this point, because you're not really going to discard it to do any damage. So this is the deck. I like Volcanion. I think it's a really powerful deck. I don't know what it's going to do against N this coming, not tomorrow, but the following Friday with whatever the heck he builds. I don't know what he's going to build yet at this point, but I'm curious to see how it's going to go. This is a very aggressive deck, but it also has some weaknesses as well, and I hope that he does not exploit them. That's all I can say. So this is a solid deck, a really good choice, I think, for your regionals, for your league challenges or city championships, not city championships, they're not city championships anymore, league cups, whatever the case may be. It's a solid choice. It's a good deck. It's powerful. It's powerful, guys. That's all I can say. All right, hopefully you enjoyed this deck profile. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. Wait, what? That way? That way? That way? No, this way. My camera's upside down, I can't tell. Be sure to like the video and of course subscribe for more TCG content here on the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and don't forget to comment down below if you guys have anything you'd like to say about it. And with that being said, guys, we hope to see you in the next video. So until then, I'm Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and you all take care.